So I had meetings before every meeting, or either I would talk to Mr. Crawford over the phone and ask him, is everything okay? You feel comfortable with everything that we've got on the agenda tonight, or do we need to meet and discuss ahead of time? And he'd tell me, no, everything's good. Or if he had some questions about it, we would meet at the office, at his office, and we would go over everything and answer his questions.
Okay, I want to interrupt just for a second. I'm sorry to, Pat, but a couple people asked me and they weren't aware. I want you to know who is running. Junior Boatwright and Ken Overstreet are running for basically the Callahan district, and Mr. Edwards and Mr. Stutz are running for the Yulee. Is that appropriate? So that's the. So you know, you're going to vote for two of these people. Okay. Any questions?
Repeat the question.
Okay, good point. What is the relationship between the county commission and the clerk of courts in Nassau County, and what would you do to keep or change that relationship?
The clerk of courts is the CFO of the county. He decides whether we are spending money within guidelines, makes recommendations, and tells us when we're good or bad. I think the biggest thing we need to do is keep an open door, going both ways, and we work with everybody to make sure that we follow the guidelines that he sets. That's his job, and we've got to maintain that decorum.
Junior, you got that cord down there.
It ain't tied around.
Okay. There we go. In politics. I agree with both of the individuals that answered before me. He's the chief financial officer of the county. He's a man that has expertise that you should never take lightly. He is your best friend. He's in your ballpark. Now, I will take exception to something my opponent said, that he confers with him and takes his advice. I've got a letter at home where he wrote to the then chair of the commission telling him that the general actions of the council were being fiscally irresponsible and that they should rein in some of the spending that they're doing. And that was his professional opinion. And from what I understand, it was ignored.
The clerk of court is basically someone that we are accountable to. Everyone is accountable to somebody. If you're not, you're in trouble. So I think that relationship should be respected, and we should continue that relationship as it is, and hopefully we're going to be able to have that ability to do so with your vote. Thank you.
Okay, now, I do have to say, Mr. Boatwright has got a 30-second to rebut his standing on the court. If he wants to.
Yes, I do want to, because I never received a letter from the clerk of court. John Crawford and I had a great, and matter of fact, if you remember, it was editorial was in the news leader saying that Mr. Crawford, along with, of course, Floyd Malloy, said that this county commission, not a council, but a commission, had it right. We knew what we were doing, and we added to the reserves. We did not spend erroneously. Thank you.
Okay. Pat, you're the guy now. What do you know and how do you feel about UN Agenda 21?
Agenda 21 is a UN opportunity to basically decide where you live, how you live, why you live. It has been ratified, and I understand Hillary Clinton is pushing it also. It can take away your guns, it can take away your home, they can force you to live in certain areas of the country, and basically it's something that I think we need to be very careful of.
You can give my spare time to Mr. Stutz. I don't like it. I don't think there's anything good about it. We need to stay away from it.
Well, the only thing I have to say is I don't really condone anything that has UN on it. I believe in the Constitution. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to Almighty God.
And I can promise you, growing up in Callahan and the woods I grew up in, by God, it ain't gonna pass over there. There ain't nothing gonna happen right there, I can tell you that.
Okay. Property rights are under continuous attack from environmental groups, the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, which is the major UN Agenda 21 group, implementation organization, the EPA, socialist and other politically correct groups. How do you feel about that, and what are you going to do, if anything, about it?
I believe every man, every property owner should be able to do as he sees fit, when and how he sees fit, as long as it doesn't impact anyone else, as long as it doesn't impact the environment negatively, so that everybody else pays for the consequences. This discussion can take 400 different avenues, but basically, I tend to lean with my opponent that in Callahan, if you talk about somebody coming in and telling one of the property owners over there what they can and can't do, they'll probably tell you which way to go to get to the gate. But basically, I don't like it.
Your property should be your property, period. End of story. And let me say this, I have been watching on Facebook and watching the paper and different ones that are, searchamelia.com and so forth, showing the turtles that are coming out of the nest. That is beautiful. That's one of the privileges that we get living here, to get to see nature right there in our face. I love all of that. But most of the people that push these agendas will spend more time saving a turtle than they will a baby. And so I'm telling you, I support you, and as a county commissioner, I will make sure that you are protected first and foremost.
Hey, it's very well documented in the minutes of our county commission meetings. If you own a piece of property and you're paying taxes on it, by George, you can do what you want to on it, within the guidelines of federal and state. I've worked with them on that about why do we have regulations, and we've stopped some of those regulations. And one of the maddest times I've ever got was in Tallahassee. We had Thomas Creek Basin in my district was flooding people's homes, and there was trees that had blew over that was in there. All we wanted to do was remove the trees, and I was sitting in Tallahassee with the DEP office, and this lady sitting there saying, I worry about what the fish are going to do if we remove that tree. What's about their habitat? And I said, I'm worried about the habitat of them daggone people that pay your taxes. That's the habitat I'm worried about.
This subject is personal to me. My wife and I built a house on land that my grandfather bought in 1932 in Nassau County. We went and bought our permit to put a driveway in, asked them if there was anything else we needed to do, and we were told, no, put a stake down and do what you want to do. So we crossed a creek that's dry 90% of the time, built our house in the back part of our property where we had always dreamed about, and DEP came down the road one day, and they fined me, and they took 4 acres of my swamp, and I had to deed it to them as a natural right way through the property. My grandfather, I'm sure, rolled over at the time, and I would say this, I don't think anybody has a right to tell you what you can do with your property. Thank you.
Much of UN Agenda 21 implementation is done through grants from the federal and state governments. What will you do when faced with free money tied to things like taking property out of private ownership and off of the tax rolls?
There's no such thing as free money. And that's the whole point. There's always strings attached to it. And I'm not interested in taking money, even if it's for the betterment of our county. We'll find another way to do it if it's going to be attached to agendas like that.
I agree completely with the previous speaker. We've actually, a couple of years ago, we did have a federal lobbyist, and I made the motion, was seconded, and we cut loose the federal lobbyist. I said, I cannot sit here at these meetings in good conscience and pay this man money to go to Washington where we're going $4 billion in debt every day. It's absolutely ridiculous to be sending somebody up there to try to get money to come back to us whenever our grandkid or our great-great-great-grandkids are going to have to pay this debt off if we don't get control of it. Now, we have got some grants while I've been in there, but the grants I've gotten for the Thomas Creek Basin have been from DEP and DCA, which was where people had to pay fines to take care of what they had done if they'd done something bad. Thank you.
I think anything, whether it's Agenda 21, any type of a grant that takes property off the tax rolls should have a microscope placed over it and find out exactly where the strings go, because I don't see any reason why you would take money out of the taxes. So my answer is, we don't need grants if we have to give up taxes.
Nassau County is not for sale. That's exactly what the government is wanting to do. The grants come with strings, they all do, and then they'll tell you what you can and cannot do. Be careful of losing what you have trying to get something you don't have. There's nothing good in the grants.